Hello and welcome to Caffeine Entertainment. I am your host, Mental9R, and this is part 2 of episode 5 of the GMX podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're new here, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. And as always, I am joined by my good buddy, F1nTinTin. Let's get this show rolling. So, Finn, here we are in GMX podcast episode 5, part 2. Thanks for joining me once again. We've got a few more topics to cover. I can ask you what you're playing. You just told us 5 minutes ago in our world. But hey, for those that are watching this a few days later, what are you playing?
Assassin's Creed Odyssey and FC24, same as the last time.
All right. Okay. At least you didn't lead with the FC24. You're getting into the flow of throwing out a different game, so that's cool. And I am playing Life is Strange right up there. I try and move my hand. That's really awkward. But yeah, that's what I've been playing, along with, of course, Assassin's Creed Odyssey as well. I'm still playing a bit of that in the background. And yeah, there's something else I'm playing. I can't think of it at the moment, so I'm not even going to get into it. But we do have a few more topics to cover in this part. So with that, why don't I just go back to the screen share? And this is a little bit old news. I'm not going to lie. It's a few days ago now. July 2nd is actually, I think, when it actually happened, if I remember correctly. But I do know that this did impact at least my family. My kids were impacted by this outage. And they came telling, well, actually my daughter, I think, texted me, or did someone tell me? I can't remember. But anyway, I tried to log in. I couldn't log in. And to me, this is something that is a bit annoying because it prevented me from even being able to play a game. And I was on my home Xbox. But because I couldn't log in, because I require login on the Xbox, because my son, he gets up at 2 in the morning, starts playing Xbox if you don't make him log in. So it is locked down a bit, right? And because of that, I think, and the fact that I couldn't authenticate, even though I could play some of the games that were on there, it wanted to wipe out my save because I wasn't me, because I couldn't log in. And this kind of underscores a bit of a problem, I think, for me that I have with consoles, at least in the way they deal with their digital libraries. From my perspective, and you know, you're probably, I think you'll have something to say on this too, Finn. We know it's possible for them to cache credentials, right? They can do that on the Xbox itself, or the software can do that. You can have something that it will allow it to authenticate even without an internet connection. Sure, that authentication potentially could become out of date, but even if they only make it good for like a week or something,
Yeah.
it's not likely you're going to have a week-long outage, but at least it lets the player log in as themselves and play those single-player games that don't require an online connection. And I just think that's something they really need to consider and really need to do, because, you know, Steam has offline modes. It's not hard to do on PC. It seems a little dumb the way it works on Xbox.
Well, I mean, first of all, I agree with everything you said. I think, like, it's like we spoke about before, when Xbox, and I think PlayStation as well, to be fair, when they first started talking about forcing you to be online to play your video games, there was an uproar, and then they backtracked from it. But they've done it by degree anyway, as this shows and proves. And I mean, Xbox, the next time they get asked this question or put in front of them or whatever, it's going to be much harder for them to say, well, Xbox never goes down, so what are you worried about? It's always available. Like, you know, I mean, I'm sorry, but sometimes I'm not at home and I don't have access to like if you're in an Airbnb or whatever, your internet connection probably is pretty sucky. You don't want to use up all your data by getting your console on your Wi-Fi, on the Wi-Fi or whatever, or on a hotspot on your phone or whatnot. You should have the option to play offline if you want to. What's the problem with that? Like, what is the problem? And as you say, like if you haven't renewed your credentials in a week or a few days, sure, like maybe it can expire. But come on, like, you know, we do have outages sometimes, but
Sure,
internet, you know, it does happen. Like, and even if it never happened to Xbox, not with my current provider, I won't name any names, but my previous ISP, I had a crap load of outages, and one very famous outage in Toronto that lasted like almost 24 hours. So like,
Yeah.
I know first world problems. I know, like not being able to play your games, but like
Yep.
when your TV is down and the internet is down, it would be nice if we could just say, well, like at least I can put on my console and play a few video games, right?
Exactly.
I don't get it. I don't get why it's such a big thing for them to force you to be online.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb, and especially given our background in tech, we know it's possible to do something about it. It's just a matter of them actually doing it and showing that customers first attitude and actually being consumer friendly with it. I think it's insane that that's just not a thing right now.
Yeah,
It's disappointing, especially like I can only imagine the number of people it actually affected if 38,000 people took the time to report it on Down Detector. Like that's
yeah, yeah. It's
what percentage of people would actually report it?
probably
Like one
yeah,
percent?
1%. I was going to say like because
Yeah.
I generally don't report those things. I go and I check to see if something is down, but I don't,
Yeah.
and I should. But like, here's the thing though, um, unless the the people who are put out are in some way organized, Xbox and Sony and the others will continue to do their thing because
Yep.
there's no mass walkout or refusal to buy any game from Xbox for a month or whatever. People aren't organized enough to kind of make a statement, and
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
and that's the difference between dealing with individual consumers versus dealing with corporations, where it's like, no, there's a big spend of money with this one client, and
Yeah.
when you piss them off, they can take action that will, have consequences. It will be consequential
Yeah.
versus like
Yeah, it'll affect your
yeah,
business.
yeah. So, but yeah, I as you say, even though the consumers don't have the power and don't have the organization to really change Microsoft's mind, aren't
Yeah.
Sony as well? Hey guys, you could just do the right thing by people as well. That's an idea.
Yeah, how about that, right? For a change, and I think you're 100% dead on. It's going to take enough people actually complaining about it for things to change, and this is where I have disagreements in at least in principle with people on X. Oh, stop complaining! It's just an outage for a few hours. Like go out and touch some grass. Not the point at all. It's let's provide the best service we can and give some actual options for people when things go wrong. And that's not what I'm seeing right now. So, anyway, that's probably enough of that one, unless you have anything else you want to add. We're
No,
good? Okay.
other than sorry, just other than like, I always do have sympathy for not necessarily the corporation, but the poor
Yeah.
engineers and technicians who are working to fix this problem and potentially cause this problem in the first place. You know what?
Yeah.
It's a sucky time to be alive when you're in the middle of these outages. So
Yeah.
hats
And
off to
you've
you
got,
guys. I do admire, I do appreciate what you guys do to bring it back online. So thank you.
that's very kind of you, and I should probably be sympathetic to that too, because I know what it's like to have your boss barking down your throat looking for an update. So,
I
yeah,
wonder who you could be
and
thinking of us.
I don't know. I don't know. No one in particular. Really nice guy, but just when things go wrong, it gets a bit hairy sometimes. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. And this one's pretty interesting, I guess. Depends on your view of things. But Ubisoft CEO says Assassin's Creed remakes are in the works. Are you just chomping at the bit for this one, Finn? More
Like,
Assassin's Creed.
so first of all, too much. I said already, too much Assassin's Creed. Like, way too much. And in
Yeah.
one of the very first paragraphs is like, we want to bring out more Assassin's Creed. And like, guys, there is too much
Oh,
of a good thing. That's a real thing, like killing the goose that laid the golden egg and all those other metaphors. Like now,
man.
and just in general, we've had this conversation before, so we don't have to go on about it too much. But I'm like, enough with the remakes, guys. Enough. Like
Yeah.
do something a bit original. Now, having said all that, I would be interested because I love the game so much. I would be interested in two things. Bring in Black Flag, as I mentioned, is one of the titles being targeted into. I don't want a remaster. I want a complete remake, reimagining of that game with sea battles, but make them even more, let's say, intense or more involved. And then the other one is not the trilogy. I don't want the trilogy. Just make a really good Ezio Assassin's Creed remake as well. Those two I'd be interested in. A once-off Ezio, not a trilogy. Just the best of the storyline from the original. But yeah, I mean, I would be interested in looking at those games in this generation of console, but I could probably do without them as well. You know?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, and it feels like this has been a generation filled with remakes, and I mean that's largely on the Sony side. We're not going to pull punches there, but I think hey, maybe it's Ubisoft looking across at what Sony's done and thinking, hey, we can dip into that pool a bit too. There's probably money to be made there, and I'm with you somewhat with Black Flag. I mean, I have very fond memories of that game. Part of me would be concerned that if they did a full remake, that they'd screw it up because I really liked that game the first time, and it would be it would leave a real sour taste in my mouth if they did something dumb with it and screwed it up in a full remake scenario. I'm trying to imagine what that game could look like under something like Unreal 5 when you look at how amazing Hellblade 2 looks. So we kind of know what that engine's capable of. And an Assassin's Creed game like that could be pretty brutal. Could be pretty cool, I think. So that part of is intriguing to me, but I'm always concerned with a remake. What if they break it? But
Yeah. I don't think.
Capcom's
Yeah.
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
Capcom's done some amazing stuff with Resident Evil. Maybe Ubisoft could, mimic that somehow.
I think it would be good, but I think it should be if they do it. I mean, it sounds like they're going to do it. If it's coming out and they're talking about it, they're doing it. But I
Yeah,
just make it like as I said, pick Ezio, one story from Ezio, one like don't make it a bloody every single Assassin's Creed game is getting remade. You already have too many guys. Already have too
yeah,
many. I'm losing track of what's like by the time I'm getting around to playing one, there's already been another three released. It's too much. Um
yeah,
but I don't think they'd screw it up, honestly. It's just and just when I was thinking about this topic before, I wondered part of the reason we're seeing so many remasters is similar, I imagine, to the whole movie industry as well. Like, why are you seeing so many sequels? Why are you seeing so many remakes? Like, the budgets are getting so bloody big that they are too scared shitless of screwing up. So they're like, we
yeah,
want to bet on sure things and
yeah,
making a really revolutionary new game with like different types of dynamics, different types of control methods, different types of storyline, etc. It's too risky to spend a lot of money on. So let's just make Assassin's Creed 17 and we know we'll sell X amount of copies.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's exactly correct for the motivation of a lot of these is budgets are huge and risk taking is just something that's too scary and it's unfortunate, and I'm hoping that some stuff changes. We've seen Microsoft introduce some new IPs, at least in their show. So hopefully, others will take a few risks. And I mean, there's nothing saying these budgets need to be 300, $400 million. Realistically, when I look at most of Sony's games I've played lately, they could do without half the cutscenes and I wouldn't miss a thing. They
Mm-hmm.
could literally trim down the games probably in terms of content by 20 hours and I would be just as happy. I feel like there's so much fluff in a lot of the games that they produce lately. There's probably $100 million wasted just in
Yeah.
fluff stuff that, really doesn't add a lot to the game itself, other than to prolong the experience to the point where, frankly, I can't wait for it to be over.
Yeah.
So maybe
I
that's
agree
a
with
me
what.
thing. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, I hear you. Like, I mean, we spoke about that before. I just don't think it's only Sony, I guess, is the one thing I would say.
No,
I think it's
true.
Xbox as well. Um,
Yeah.
like, and they're two very different games, and one is a AAA title, and the other one is probably not. But when I look at the X-Men game that came out not so long ago, whatever, Rising Suns or whatever the hell it was called, um, and then I looked at Diablo 4. I felt the same playing both games. It's like, man, there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking here that I
Yeah.
don't. I'm just waiting to get through it. Like, I know it was a bit like a James Bond movie, right? I don't know what the guy did. I don't know what he stole. All I know is that he's the bad guy, and James Bond has got to stop him. That's the
Yeah.
important thing. I don't
Yeah.
need like
And yeah.
hours of dialogue to explain that.
Yeah, he's the bad guy and I want to kill him. That's it. Let's go.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's I think that is a big problem as well in the game industry these days, is there's this feeling like everything's got to be a movie to some extent, and hopefully it changes. Some success by some smaller titles may sway the opinions on some of that, and we'll get into gaming maybe a little bit more like it was in the old days, where you're 99% gaming, 1% cutscenes. But and
there,
again, I don't mind cutscenes. A
yeah.
few cutscenes here and there are fine. It keeps the story, gives you a bit of a break to sit back and just watch a couple minutes of cutscene. I don't mind that. But some of the games, it's just too much. It's over the
Yeah,
top.
and I was going to say there are exceptions to it because again, I know you and I both loved, and at the time we were blown away by The Last of Us, the
Yeah.
original, the first time it came out. What a cinematic experience it was! It felt like you were in the middle of a movie. But
Mm-hmm.
the difference is they did that spectacularly well, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to do it, you got to be like, and I think
Got
even
to
like
do it right.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right? If you're watching that as a movie, some of the cutscenes are really like B movies acting and B movie script. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, you really got to hit the nail. If you can't be really good, just don't do it. Just get on with the game.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Alrighty, let's move on to our last topic, and that is about Nintendo. I mean, hey, number one in gaming, Nintendo, which is actually kind of true. They have the Switch has outsold pretty much everything there is, and there's talk that it may even eclipse the PS2 as the best-selling console ever. Nintendo manages to get away with very few sales, and when they have sales, the sales aren't that great. They always draw big bucks for their stuff, and they are saying they have no plans to use generative, easy for me to say, AI in its games. I think that's fine for them to say now. I'd like to see them say that again in 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a hot topic these days, right? I mean, even saying it's a hot topic makes you seem old because it's been a hot topic for the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but one thing I found interesting? I mean, first of all, I think the penny hasn't dropped yet with regards to the IP. Like, because this generative AI, it's not really creating new content, but it is to a degree, but it's mainly reorganizing existing content that someone else has produced. That's one thing. So I think the copyright is up in the air as to like who owns that, and are you allowed? Are you allowed to take a bunch of Vincent Van Gogh paintings and just reorganize them and then say, okay, hey, I'm the new Vincent Van Gogh? Like I don't know. Like it's if in the music industry, if you used a riff from Led Zeppelin in a song, you'd have to pay. Like
Yep.
although Led Zeppelin didn't pay the old blues artists that they ripped off. But anyway, that's a different topic. But one thing I found interesting about the topic as well, besides that aspect of it, that I hadn't really thought about before, is I think it was the CEO of Nintendo rather mentioning how are people going to get the like they say like about well, we're only going to take the, let's say, the low hanging fruit. We're only going to take the work that people don't want to do anyway and use that, use AI for that. How are people getting their experience? How is the next generation of people leaving university getting the experience to be good at complex things if they don't like get their fingers dirty on some easy things to start them off? Like, are you meant to just jump straight? I understand like that you may not want to do the budgeting or creating the spreadsheet or the formulas or whatever, but then you're not really going to understand what you're doing. You're just going to have an interface. So I found that aspect, I hadn't really thought about that before. And I think if we just rely on AI to do all the simple stuff, we're going to, the complex stuff is going to get a lot tougher for people as well, because like
but then you just use AI for the complex stuff too.
Then you got Wally, and we're all going around getting fed donuts in their movable eggs, right? So like
Wally.
Like it's sort of a slippery slope. Like I just think we'll just get dumber and dumber if we use AI for everything.
Yeah, idiocracy is right around the corner. But I mean, honestly, like I said, like to see him say that in 5 years, I mean, I think the writing's on the wall. There will be segments of coding that are done, and it'll be developers that will be using AI to help speed their job up. They're going to have to do it. We're talking about costs on games. This is one way you bring costs down, right? And ultimately, I think they're going to get there too. It's just the way the world is moving. I mean, we're using AI for stuff like that at work. I've got guys on my team that are writing modules for one of the systems that we use to plug in for additional information being gathered from systems. They're using AI for part of that coding. It just makes it faster.
It's true, but like as I say, like what I found interesting is that what if your guys had never ever done monitoring, or had never ever built the system, or had never ever installed an OS, and just said, well, I don't need to do that, I'll just need to use AI to do that. But if they'd never ever done it, like who are the future architects that have come up from the ground up, building layer upon layer of experience? Maybe I sound like an old fart here, but
you kind of do. You've been out of the industry now for over a year, dude. You're so far behind. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's crazy. Like, I really wonder. Like, like there's enough content out there for people. Like, there's enough music out there. There's enough paintings out there for no one to ever have to do a painting again, right? And then AI can just take whatever is being there already and just rejig it, and there you go, new painting. But haven't we lost something? If people, I think we have.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know. Ultimately, whether they use AI or not is irrelevant. I think consumers will make the decision anyway. I've seen a lot of people like, oh, I'll never buy anything that AI has been involved in making. You've already bought stuff that AI has been involved in making. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And I think, the games will speak for themselves if the games are trash. Like, my biggest thing for AI, and like I mentioned this on the guys there on the Bullsitting podcast on Friday. I think AI, for me, one of the coolest things would be using AI in character development to give each character a unique personality that when you have a conversation with them, it's like talking to AI. Like, you can have interesting conversations with ChatGTP and have strange interactions or cool interactions depending on what the conversation's about. And to be able to integrate that type of stuff into a video game, so much so that when you, like, imagine this, you've played through Starfield, right? So now you're going into New Game Plus. You go into New Game Plus, and all those NPCs are given new personalities.
Mhm.
So that your allies from the first time through, they might be completely different and just go, what the hell? Get out of here, right? Instead of, yeah, come on, buddy, let's get together and fix this thing, right? It could completely change the game in its entirety for your second playthrough, including they could even use AI to regenerate quests in a different way or have different quests. Like, there's so much that could be done there to almost make a game infinitely replayable,
Yeah.
to the point where it's different every single time and every character is different. They look different, they sound different, and so on and so on. Like,
No,
there's so many things that could happen there.
I 100% agree and 100% get it. Because even as you started talking, before you even mentioned Starfield, one of my complaints about Starfield the first time around was that they basically cut and paste a lot of the notes that were left by scientists and various
Yep.
whatever installations in other ends of the galaxy, right? Like, but it was like the same doctor waiting for the same shipment or complaining about the same power failure. I get it. You're
Yep.
100% right. I'm just the broader implications of like never having to do the simple stuff just makes us stupider and stupider. I think as
Yeah. I
years
mean,
go by.
there would be a lot of work that would have to be done on that game by humans to make sure that the AI was performing correctly, right? Like, you still have to build the language models. You still have to do all of that. That has to be humans that are doing it. I mean, AI is not at a point where it can teach itself that stuff.
It's
The
not
day
too
may
far away,
come.
dude. It's not
Yeah,
too far
well,
away. I don't think.
yeah, another couple decades we'll be there for sure, more than likely. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Maybe less than that, maybe 15 years. But it's still at a point where with the AI is only as good as the person that builds the model. And I think there's a lot to be done there that would still involve humans, but I'm imagining that world, and it'd probably be a case of you fire the game up, and you'd have to wait for it to generate everything. You'd sit there, you'd start the game up, an hour later, it'd be ready to play, because it'd have to go through and generate all that content, at least the first part of it, have its all the characters mapped out and everything, and then as you explore the galaxy, it would start generating new stuff as you moved along in the game, right? But I think it would be worth waiting around for an hour for it to do that, to have another unique experience. I think that would be so cool. And your experience, like, there would be no such thing as a cheat guide, because you'd have a million possibilities as to how your game would play out, probably infinite, to be honest. When you think of all the characters you've interacted with in Starfield, and then they have like the possibility of 100 different personalities or 1,000 different personalities each character could have, and then you mix and match those across the 1,000 characters you could potentially run into. It gets pretty crazy in a hurry to how possibilities are endless with how a game
As I
can
say,
come out.
I'm not
It's
doubting the
crazy.
I'm not doubting the applications at all, and I actually think we'll be there a lot sooner than you think. I actually
Probably
think
right.
it'll
Probably
be
right.
like AI version 1 will be saying AI version 2 doesn't know what they're doing. They still need us to play to do the testing. AI version 2 is
Yeah.
going to create all this new content, but they're not like us. They haven't been through the hard slog, and so. And I think as well,
Yeah.
AI it won't need to do it in the way you describe, like generate everything, take an hour to do that. I think it'll be much quicker. It'll be able to do it iteratively, so like that you can just the next 100 meters or 200 meters or next 15 minutes of gameplay can be generated very quickly. But as I say,
As
what's
power increases, yeah, you wouldn't do that with this gen of console, but as
what,
power
what's
increases, five,
what's
10 years, yeah.
what struck me about the because I had thought about it before and I hadn't. They always upsell AI to organizations and to employees. It's like, hey, we're not going to take your job away. We're just going to take the simple parts of your job that you don't want to do anyway. But that's what helps you learn. That's what helps you learn to do medium complex pieces of your job and complex pieces of your job. So anyway,
Yeah,
that
but by
was
the
just
time they run out of the people that know how to do those complex jobs, the AI will know how to do it, so they won't
yeah.
need them anymore.
We'll,
But
we'll just have rocks and we'll just hit the keyboard and
yeah,
do game.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a scary future potentially. It's also there's a lot of promise there. Who knows? I think on one hand, we're old enough that at least if the AI goes crazy and it wants to kill everybody in 15 years, we've had a pretty good run. So
Yeah.
I feel a little
On
more
that
concerned for
optimistic
my
note,
kids.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel more concerned for my kids. They're too young for that. But yeah, I don't know. I do think,
Well,
though, that
we'll have to
5 years from now, the likelihood of Nintendo not using AI is slim to none.
we'll have to teach our kids how to use pliers so they can cut the green wire or the red wire.
Yes, there you go. There you go. But that's all I think I've got to say on this topic. It's an interesting one. We'll see. We'll see where it all goes. But
Yeah, but
yeah,
I just to say though that like despite my worries about AI in general, I agree with you in this that there is unlimited potential for it to be used in games and used to make a lot of really cool games and make games a lot more dynamic
yeah.
and unique. Um, but yeah, we'll see how we'll like. I don't think humans have ever created a technology that then we've gone and misused and made things worse. Oh wait,
No, 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 no. We've never done anything like that. But yeah, okay. Well, why don't you plug your stuff and we'll get out of here.
okay,
Another episode in the books.
yeah, another half an episode in the books at
Yeah,
least. But yeah,
whatever. Close
so
enough.
so FinTinTin on Xbox and on PlayStation with an I instead of the one, and you'll see there at FinTinTin on X, and actually it is FinTinTin on Steam as well. I always forget to
There you
mention,
go.
but
Got to remember Steam, man.
yeah,
It's the platform of the future. PCMR. You're going to be in there. And then it'll be both of us. We'll change the name. It'll just be the PC podcast or something. But yeah, and I'm at Mental9R on X. I'm Mental9R everywhere, including PlayStation and Xbox and Steam. Pretty much everywhere except for YouTube and Rumble, where I'm at Caffeine Entertainment. Don't have the fancy at URL on Rumble, but you can find us with a search. And we actually get quite a few views over there. It's shocking sometimes. Freaks me right out. I don't know who's watching. Maybe it's nobody. Maybe it's bots. I don't care, really, to be honest. As long as the view counter goes up. Actually, no, I do care. If you're new here and you have never watched us before and you've made it this far, really appreciate you joining us, and don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button and maybe even ring that bell so you don't miss future episodes, because sometimes maybe they're not too bad. Actually, we do get a few views once in a while, and we are looking to build that subscriber base. Don't be afraid to hit the dislike button if you didn't like it, and make sure you say why in the comments. Otherwise we can't get any better at this. This wraps up part 2 of the GMX podcast, episode 5. I said 4 in the last one. That was my bad. I get them mixed up. I mean, hey, we have already done 5 of them. How are you supposed to keep track of that? Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Mental9R. This is Caffeine Entertainment. It's time to wake up and play some games.